Well, good morning, everybody. It is Saturday morning, July 12th. And it's interesting that one of the early editions of my roadcast is about Connecticut. It is not in Connecticut. We're now northeastern Massachusetts, heading on a beeline for Belfast, Maine. Yes, Belfast, Maine. My Auntie Sue, she passed away a few months ago. And the ground is finally thawed out up in Belfast, I think, and going to her burial ceremony. My Auntie Sue, that's right. My cousins, who I barely see, barely know, but do know a little bit. So that dynamic is going to be interesting. In fact, I think, well, one of my cousins, I won't name her by name, but I told her I was coming. I told her a little bit about how I ran against Ben Proto for chair of the Republican Party, and she went, "Well, that's nice. Whatever works," I think she said. So she's, a cousin I've been close with in the past, but we haven't spoken really much over the last 20 years. And I think she's on the left wing, it sounds like. So we're going up to Maine, who Trump just sued for letting men continue to play women's sports, which is really surprising for them. Well, it's not completely surprising for the state of Maine, but we are on our way there. My Auntie Sue was pretty good to me. When I was a little guy up in East Hartland, she was around with my mother, and then she moved to Maine. And I spent a week with her up here, up in Belfast, when I was Palermo, Maine, actually. When I was 11, the year of the baseball strike. I was pissed there was no baseball. I was 11, and I spent the week with her up there. And then when I was 12 again, I went up there and spent another week in Palermo, Maine with her. And I don't know, she's always good to me. Sorry, when I got married, she came to my wedding. She was always far away, though, Then when my grandmother died, her and my mother had a feud about the stuff, and my mother stopped talking to her. So, but I came and visited her with Melissa back in 2016. Spent a night there with her and Uncle Mark. She passed away a few months ago, and now I'm going up to read a little passage for my mother and say a few things on her behalf, and of course respect and honor her. But I debated on whether to go or not, because, well, number one, it's a long drive. It's a 4.5 hour drive, maybe more with traffic if we hit traffic. And I'm busy, busy helping flip Connecticut red, investigating stuff. This is quite the ride, and I drive around a lot as it is. So hey, I'm thinking about afterward, though. What else would I have done if I didn't go? I would have been sitting around in my living room. Today's the day off. I could have worked this morning. I had work to do this morning. Might have worked for the morning, maybe. And I would have been sitting around. And of course, I like life. To me, is a balance. It's a balance between going out and doing things and sitting around doing nothing. I think we should all do a little of both. We should balance the two. If you're doing too much hustling and bustling around, it's just too much. And if you're doing, I'm of the school of thought, too much of anything is a bad thing. Pretty much, almost anything. I can't think of anything that too much of can't be bad. Even too much water, too much love, that's what stalkers do. Too much love. Can't have that. So it's about balance, really. And so I like to balance my hustle bustle time, and then at the end of the day, I gotta have some idle time. I gotta have my lion time, just sit around, wag my tail, and watch the flies, the wheels. Watch the wheels go by. Watch the wheels turn. John Lennon type of thing. I like to do some of that. But as I get older, and life gets shorter, I realize that the value of there's not too much of that, becomes less. I've always done a lot of that lying around, but of course a lot of working too. I work hard. I'm a hard worker. Not a workaholic, though. Not a workaholic. I need my thinking time. and my idle time, my not thinking time, meditation time. I don't think Americans get enough of that time, or take enough of that time for mental. If we have to talk about the mental health problems we have in this country. Well, that's probably a lot of it. Too much pressure, system. Again, back in the 50s, you had one person could work a 35 or 40-hour week and take care of the whole family. Now, it takes two and sometimes more. It's not enough. And that's not an accident. That is a battle between the state and the family, where the state wins and the family loses. Families get stressed and they break apart. And then there's this massive fraudulent welfare system out there which gives families incentive to break up. And so that's why the divorce rate is what it is. It's a shame. It really is. I know when I did a 6-minute segment on YouTube the other day, it took forever to load up. It took like 40 minutes for the thing to load up. So I wanted to do a lot of time here and spend a lot of time on this podcast and this roadcast and talk about all kinds of things. About Connecticut mostly, even though I'm heading a beeline for Maine at the moment. I just think it's Americans need more time to rest. So at any rate, I was debating this morning whether to go or not, And then I think if this was even 5 years ago, I probably wouldn't have gone. I'd probably say, I need my idle time. But like I said, I still want my idle time, but I don't think I need as much anymore. I feel like I want to, sometimes 2 or 3 days in a row of a weekend, or if I could I would sit around and just be lazy. Well, people would call it being lazy. I don't call it being lazy. I call it resting and recuperating before going out and taking on the world again. But the older I get, the more I feel like I want to do more. I want to tip that scale more in the favor of going out and doing things and less sitting around. So my sitting around might be limited to 1 full day a week, or 1 full day every once in a while, or more half days. As an investigator, I set my own schedule pretty much. A lot of things I have to do on the fly. So there's a lot of quick response stuff I got to do, but most of the regular work, I have a 1 day, I do process service. So that was just serving subpoenas around Connecticut. I have a 1 to 8 day turnaround time, or 1 to 10 business day turnaround time on those. So I have to get them done in a certain period of time, but I get to space them out when I want. Obviously, basically somebody pays me a certain amount of money to go to a house or a business up to 3 times to try to serve the subpoena to whoever's there, or a particular person, or whatnot. But I get to set my own schedule. So I find myself lately doing like a European style. So I'll get up very early in the morning and go out and do subpoenas early AM, or I'll go to the office early AM, or get things done. I'm like the Army. I get more done before 9 AM than most people do all day. And around 9:30, 10, 11 o'clock, I feel like I reach a breaking point. And I know I got stuff I got to serve at night. A lot of times I have to go out at night and do stuff. And so I'll sometimes come home around 11 and hang out mostly watch TV. Maybe do a little work at home, make a couple phone calls. Maybe take a nap even sometimes if I'm tired. Sometimes for just a couple hours, sometimes for 4 or 5 hours. I'm not working, I'm sort of in the middle. I'm sort of half working or just resting. And then around anywhere from 3 or 4 p.m. or to whatever time the case demands, sometimes 5:30 p.m., I'll go out and I'll go back to work. I'll hustle and I'll work for a few more hours. So I end up working 10, 11-hour days, sometimes 12-hour days, almost every day, but I just think it's split up. Which, if I was younger, I'd never let that happen. That schedule would have sounded like a nightmare to me when I was in my 20s, but now it seems all right. Working out okay. But I feel like the 4th of July weekend, I had 3 days of idleness. I mean, I went to a barbecue, cookout on Sunday. But other than that, I just kind of sat around and recuperated, did a lot of thinking. And I need a lot of thinking time. I just do. I need a lot of thinking time. A lot of just to think things through. And I think people should think things through before they come to conclusions. We have God, scary, as many as 60 million people, I would think. But non-voting people, most of them, I would think, that are a little unhinged, that are believing that we have Nazis in the White House. I mean, running the country. I mean, it's a lie. People believe it because they're being told that by irresponsible, rabble-rousing troublemakers in Washington, telling them that we have Nazis in Washington. And they know that's not true. I want to get one thing straight for people who may be confused about this idea of MAGA and MAGA Republicans being Nazis. Okay, Nazis rounded up millions of people based on their religious beliefs, Jewish people in particular, put them in concentration camps and gassed them to death. That's the stuff Hitler did. We're not doing that stuff. Donald Trump's not doing that stuff. Hitler invaded just with his army, just tried to take over Europe, started trying to conquer other countries with malicious invasions. Well, we're not doing any of that either. Hitler was, killing people. We are simply obeying the law and getting people who came here illegally and broke the law out. And I believe that once we have a good handle on the illegal criminals in the country, and that we've got that under control, I believe there will be, not amnesty, but there will be a less aggressive approach with the other millions of people that came here, illegal as well, but with the intention on working and contributing to the country and being part of the American system. It is common sense, and it stands to reason that when you have a country and a culture, that people who come here need to, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. You got to come here and be like us. You can't come here. I mean, you can still have your own religious beliefs, your own culture, and you're free to do what you want, but you can do whatever you want with your culture, but you can't change ours. You can't come here and try to change ours. That doesn't work. Especially when that change is to an ideology that doesn't involve freedom. You got a new idea that involves freedom that we can all like, we'll all get into it with you. Many foreign immigrants from other nations have come here and done great things for this country. I thought Elon Musk was one of them. No, Elon Musk is not one of them. Elon Musk, I have a theory about Elon Musk. It goes to do with, I'm kind of outing myself here a little bit, but, well, most of you who know history know the history of the Trojan horse, right? The story of Troy, and I think it was from the Iliad, and how there was this walled city. I think it was Sparta against another, against the Trojan, I must have been Athens against Sparta, I'm not sure, but who the battling parties were, I forget. But they couldn't get into this city to take this city out. Their fortress was too strong, so they, of course, built this big wooden horse, with a hollow wooden horse, big tall one, and they put an army inside of the horse, and then just sat it outside the castle, and then, of course, the residents of the city, of the walled city, thought it was a gift from the gods. You know how those ancient people used to think about the gods. And they came out and they brought the horse straight into their city, worshipped the horse, and then went to bed at night. And then at night, of course, the army exited the horse and slaughtered the villagers, took over Troy. So that's the Trojan horse. And I feel like in politics, the Democrats are constantly pulling Trojan horses on us. Like Ben Proto, the chairman of the Republican Party in Connecticut today, is a Trojan horse. They bring people and they pretend they're us, and they're really not. We have a big problem with that in Connecticut, I'm sure, probably around the country as well. And we're trying to fix that. But that's not easy. And so the Trojan horse, right? Back to Elon. Elon Musk could have been a Trojan horse. Elon Musk may have never been on our side, may have never been on Donald Trump's side. They even just put here to infiltrate the Trojan horse us, give us all to love them, and then turn around suddenly, overnight almost, and start bashing the president and just right back against them. And not only that, now threatening to form a third party, which we all know, if it'll gain any traction at all, would do with the Ross Perot, I call the Ross Perot. It would split and cordon, or if not split, at least cordon off enough of the MAGA vote to his side, having gained so many fans on our side to tip the scales and allow a Democrat back into the White House in 2028, which is maybe what it's very possible that these evil Marxist Democrats might have recognized Trump's momentum in this election last year and decided to bring Elon in explicitly and purposely to Trojan horse us. So again, if you didn't understand my story, that's why I told the story of the Trojan horse. You can look it up on online too and read about it, the Iliad, the story of the Trojan horse. You can understand exactly what the hell's happening here. I think that's a very good theory. Elon was never our friend. He's just a brilliant Trojan horse. That's kind of scary. We have Trojan horses in Connecticut everywhere in the GOP. It's a bad situation. We're working it out. But at any rate, this broadcast is meant just to hang out with people in Connecticut, whoever wants to watch. So I want them to understand what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, why we're doing it. It's not me alone. It's Lena Rifkin. She's John Anderson, and a whole group of us now. Poor Steve. And it's basically a lot of regular people like you and me, working people that are fed up with what's happening in Connecticut. And we're all working together in a little group, that's really like doing a lot of good things to help flip it. And of course, with us now are a few trusted, awesome politicians that we've helped cultivate, that they've come forward, and that we're working together with to get elected. Namely, Steve Orozco, who's running for mayor of New Haven this fall. We need as many people as you can who knows or associated with New Haven to go in and talk voters into vote for Steve Orozco. That's what we need. New Haven has the worst education in the state, and they spend the most money. It's an absolute disaster, that state. That city. And then, of course, we got John DeBarros, he's the best, man. He is a true hero of the working people, all the working people of Connecticut, particularly the inner cities, too. John knows what's up out there, and he's really coming out with a message that is strong and logical. It's common sense, baby. It's about freedom. It's about economic fairness, opportunity for all of us. A fair opportunity. That's all we ask for. You know what the true bottom line is? If you want a handout, if you want to be given a gift through life and not have to work for just do what's necessary to get by. If you're an able-bodied person and you're too lazy to produce for yourself, then you should go live in Europe or another part of the country where you can live under government rule and socialism, not be allowed to speak your mind, and have all your rights taken away, but at least you'll have your free stuff. If you want to do that, that's the way the rest of the world used to work. It's called peasantry. They got rid of that word now. Serfdom, it's called. Those words they don't use anymore for socialism, but that's essentially what it is. You're a peasant, you're a serf, and it's disgusting. So if you want to go to Europe and live like that, or if you want to go to another part of the world and live like that, you go right ahead. That's not what this country was founded on. We're founded on a new concept that's been around for almost 250 years now, which is freedom and self-determination, which gave birth to the first ever vibrant, strong, majority middle class in the history of the world. That's right. For people, a strong, vibrant majority, that's the key word there, a strong, vibrant majority middle class in America grew from the beginning of the founding of this country in the early 19th century right up through today. And it is the first and only strong, vibrant majority middle class in the history of the world. It never existed before that. Just didn't. There's no example of it. Now, I know Greece had democracy, and there are some minor experiments with democracy in the past, but it was democracy based on if you already held land, or if you were a man, and I know this country started. We're going to talk a lot on this roadcast about race gender, just the foundation of it. Why it's such a big issue. It's an emotional issue. No one wants to be discriminated against because they're a woman or an African American or an Asian or white for that matter. Nobody wants to be discriminated based on things they can't control. Skin color, creed, orientation. None of that stuff. Even trans. Nobody wants, even if you're a trans or homosexual, you don't want to be discriminated against. Of course not. Nobody wants that. Nobody's in favor of that. But at the same time, if you choose to do things, right? I think, like, again, for instance, a man walking around dressed as a woman, say, okay? Whether it's transvestite or transsexual, whatever you want to call it, whatever the name for it you want to call it is, right? That's unusual. That, as time goes by, you see more of that. It's less unusual than it was. It would have been extremely unusual in public 40, 50 years ago. It's still pretty unusual in public today, but it's less, and some people are going to look at you strange or whatever, but that's a consequence of a free society. You can't tell people how to behave, how to look at people, how to perceive people. If you decide to do something that's perceivably different, you can expect people to look at you differently. That's just how it goes. You cannot get people in trouble because they call them a she when they're really a she when they want to be a he. You say, look, please call me a he. Okay, I'll try to call you he if you want, but I might forget because I'm used to calling she's, or he's, and you cannot hold people responsible for that. You can't take someone who wants to be different. You can let them be different, and it's fine, and it's probably impolite to gawk or make fun of people that are different. But some people are going to do that, and maybe you should frown upon that. You shouldn't make fun of these people. That'll make you look bad. So most people choose just to let it slide and just ignore it or just try to accept it. And that's what most people do, It's fine. So I guess what I'm getting at on this is discrimination. You can't enforce. You can tell people you can't discriminate, but you can't enforce something that's different and force people to accept it as normal. Because if it's different, it's different. That goes against you're trying to legislate or litigate or prosecute normal human behavior. And that's a dangerous place to go. You cannot go there. You cannot go there. That's fascism. That is fascism. So you see, the things that that the left wing accuses the right wing of are what they're doing. So if there's any fascist or Nazi threat, it's the left. If they get back in power, they're the ones that, as we know, are jailing people. I mean, look at January 6th now. Look at the way they whined and cried about J6, which was a few hundred people, one injury. And I've seen video of the security cameras at the entrance of the Capitol that day. And if you watch the video on fast motion all the way through, it looks like a normal day. People checking in, checking out. Yeah, it got a little rocky. But there was, like, you want to compare that to what's been going on in LA, what's been going on in New York, what's been going on in these, Tesla's burning, and what's been going on with these riots that are coming from the left. That's a lot worse than J6. Boy, they were ready to put people in jail for what happened on J6 you have to keep law and order. Well, apparently now law and order is not necessary. Talk about hypocrisy. Wow. These people are unhinged. And one thing I want people in the MAGA movement, which is, by the way, the last of the free world, essentially, is the MAGA movement. We're all that's left of the free world right now. So we're down to just us. But I think the people of MAGA need to become aware of the fact that the far left leaders and the unhinged population that follows them are no longer interested in your vote. They're no longer interested in winning the minds and hearts and minds of the American people. That is lost. Long lost. So now they've resorted to violence. So simple as that. They've resorted to a warlike state now. It's no longer... I hope I didn't miss my turn. I don't think so. Oh, we're still in Lawrence. We're still nowhere near the turn. But anyway, I think that anchors, like I've said this before, but Laura Ingraham, my point, I always pick on Laura Ingraham from Fox, but there's a lot of others that are the same way. But she's the one that has the basically primetime show where she's saying, keeps talking about how the Democrats keep missing the message, like they're all scratching their heads trying to figure out why the people don't understand woke and understand all this crappy policies that they have. Why don't they get it? We'll have to rework our message or whatever. No, these people that are no longer interested in the vote. They're interested in control and subdue. They want you to subdue, control you, take over by bullying. They're rig elections, break the rules, use intimidation, whatever they got to do. All the violence, they're using violence, obviously. This country's seen a lot of, in my lifetime even, a lot of righty, scary, violent periods crop up, especially in the years before I was born, late 60s, and with Rodney King, and even in 2020, and then of course Me Too. Oh no, the Seattle 99% thing that happened in the 90s, early 2000s. So there's been these, of course we had the Oklahoma City bombing. We've had these little periods of, short periods, I'd say, of unrest happen, and they come and they go. And then when they would happen, unfortunately, this time it's not going to go like it's gone these other times. So we're all used to seeing all these riots on TV; they're terrible. But by a week or two later, it's kind of gone, right? Or a month or two later, whatever. They might go on for a summer or something, and they're disturbing. Violence in America really shouldn't happen. Free clear debate. Free speech begets violence. That's why it's so important. Protect the First Amendment. But we've been used to these things popping up and kind of going away. The movement comes, movement goes. The violence comes, the violence goes. Well, and here's the thing. I don't think that's the case this time. I don't think the violence is going to go away until we play out this, what I believe is the start of the Second Civil War in America. It's not going to be like the other ones that just go away. It's going to continue to get worse until it gets squashed. And it's going to be a painful process. A war. And the way I say that because there's a big difference between this one and this series of riots and the other ones. And that is, every time beforehand we've had riots, the government in Washington, both Democrats and Republicans have pretty much stood up in unison and said, condemned the violence. But the big difference is, this time, that has not happened. It has not happened. What we have instead is all except Fetterman, of the Democrats are not only not condoning the violence, but they're fanning the flames. Well, they're upset. This is what happens when you have authoritarian government. They're comparing ICE agents to Nazi soldiers, which they know themselves is not true. They know themselves that's not true. But they do it anyway. That's the difference. And that is continuing to fan the flames among the 20%. We have an 80-20 thing in America now. We had a 50-50 thing going on for many years, my early adulthood and most of our lives, a lot of 50-50. With Reagan, we had a little 80-20 thing going on for a little while there, 70-30 thing maybe. But it's been in 50-50, 50-50. I think really in reality it's always been 70-30, but they've managed, the left wing's always managed to be sly enough to fool a lot of people, as many as 45-50% of the people. And then of course they rig elections. They've always rigged them a little bit to get the edge. But now we have an 80-20 thing, and all they're doing now is, they know the 20% is not enough to win elections, so they're just fanning the flames. So what's different now is we have all the Democrats standing up and basically condoning the violence. And then continuing to not only condone it, but fan it by continuing to lie to people and tell them they have a Hitler in the White House. Which, again, if I was a lesser intelligent, mentally off citizen voter of Connecticut, or of America at all, and I heard about a Hitler being in my White House, my country, I'd be scared too. And I might even consider violence. So that's what we have. And it's a major, major problem. With that said, I'm going to wrap this little thing up. I'm going to get it out there. I hope everybody has a great day. I'll probably come back on and do a little more up in Maine. The great state of Maine, the Pine Tree State. But I got to make sure I can navigate my way through New Hampshire. I'm a very good navigator, but podcasting and navigating at the same time, a little iffy. So have a great day, everybody. I might catch up with you later. I'm thinking about going to see the Red Sox after this. Talk baseball maybe a little bit later. Red Sox. Oh, Lordy. So anyway, God bless Connecticut. God bless America. We'll see you soon.